The Lantern Keeper. In a small village hidden deep in the hills, life moved slowly, wrapped in quiet routines and old stories. People lived simply growing crops, raising animals, and watching the seasons shift. But as the sun set each evening, a certain unease would stir in the air. Before night fully arrived, everyone gathered in the village square. There, an old iron hook held a single lantern. It was always lit before darkness fell, and no one ever questioned why. The light wasn't just a habit, it was protection. The elders used to say that long ago, something dark came from the forest. They never said exactly what it was, only that people vanished, animals refused to enter, and cold wind whispered through homes. Then, a wandering monk passed through. He placed a lantern at the heart of the village and told them to keep it lit, always. Since then, peace returned, but no one forgot the feeling of what had once tried to crawl in. One person was chosen to care for that lantern. They were called the Lantern Keeper. It was a quiet job, passed down from one to another. The current keeper was a man of few words. He lived alone in a small hut near the forest, always arriving in the square just before nightfall to tend to the flame. He checked the oil, trimmed the wick, and lit it with practiced care. Then he vanished into the dark, leaving only the soft, steady glow behind. People respected him, even feared him a little. Children watched from behind fences. Adults nodded silently when he passed. He never asked for thanks, and no one ever interfered. But one evening, everything changed. The sky darkened earlier than usual. Clouds gathered low, heavy and restless. People stood in the square waiting, but the keeper never came. The lantern remained dark. Minutes stretched into hours. Worry turned to fear. Eventually, a boy was sent to check on him. When he returned, his face was pale and his eyes wide with something he couldn't explain. He said the hut was empty. The door was open. Inside, they found only the shattered glass of the lantern and a pool of thick black oil. That night, something shifted. The air grew colder than it had ever been. Whispers floated on the wind, soft, strange sounds that slipped under doors and crept along walls. Shapes moved where there should have been stillness. Some villagers said they saw figures standing at the edge of the trees. Others heard knocking on windows with no one outside. The next morning, a family was missing. No signs of struggle, no screams, just empty rooms and quiet houses. The villagers tried to light the lantern themselves, but nothing worked. The flames refused to catch. The oil turned thick and black. The wick curled in on itself. Each attempt failed. And then they noticed something worse when people tried to leave the village. The roads turned them around. No matter how far they walked, they ended up back in the same square.
Only then did they begin to understand what the keeper had been doing all these years. He hadn't just been lighting a lantern. He had been holding something back, feeding it, maybe, bargaining with it. The light wasn't just fire. It was a barrier, a deal. And now, that deal had been broken. One by one, homes fell silent. Doors swung open, untouched. The forest crept closer. Grass grew through stone. The village didn't vanish in fire or chaos, but in silence. A slow fading, a quiet end. And in the center of it all, where life once gathered at sunset, the iron hook still hung empty. The lantern was gone. But if you walk there now deep into the hills where no paths remain, you might hear the faint sound of wind moving through trees. And if you listen closely, it sounds like someone whispering your name.